you constantly forgetting martial art techniques? Can't show up often enough to train at your gym to make progress? Or you just want to make learning martial arts easier to do? Well, this method could work for you like it did for me. You won't know until you try it. In my case, I use this method for grappling arts like BJJ. Found great results, and I'm pretty confident that this method could be used for other types of martial arts as well. Trust me, this method is very simple and easy to do. Don't overthink that it is some kind of elaborate and complex thing that follows strict function and rules that you will have to learn to perfect in. It's definitely not like that. It's a method that is free-form and customizable. It's where I am encouraging you to put in your own interpretations and meaning to how you think it works. And overall, I just want you to use my example that I do in my demonstrations to create your own system that works and makes sense to you. But anyways, welcome to the video where I explain how the code note-taking method conceptually and fundamentally works. This video is to help clear out any confusion about the method, because people have reached out to me and are still confused to how I was using the coding method to memorize martial art techniques from instructionals and tutorials. Yeah, I really hope this video will make it clear for you to understand to what I am doing in my demonstrations that I post. That after this video, you will go and watch one of my demonstrations, learn from them, which then hopefully get you out the door in memorizing martial art techniques like they are not a struggle anymore. That the information just goes right into your head almost like it belongs there. That after learning how to use the method, you will start having a more efficient and effective martial art practice that respects your time and effort. So how does the code note-taking method fundamentally and conceptually works? If you guys don't know, this code note-taking method originated from a method called the first letter cueing, or the first letter mnemonics method. The first letter cueing method is used by actors who want to memorize their script for movie roles, musicians who want to memorize lyrics to sing their songs, and comedians who want to memorize their bits and jokes to perform on stage. So if you want to make it easier to do those things, this method will definitely help. Basically, the idea is that we're going to use this method to memorize martial art techniques. But before that, let's go over this document right here that explains how the first letter cueing method works. I am not only just going to go over this document that explains how the first letter cueing method works, but also use the first letter cueing method on this document to demonstrate how it works. So let's say if I wanted to memorize this whole document about the first letter cueing method, this is how I would use the method to memorize this document, basically. So to start off in memorizing this whole document using the first letter cueing method, going from 1 to 7, right now what we're looking at is the basic form of the document. Basic form means that it is going to be very descriptive, wordy, that you can read like a book. And we're going to turn this document into code form. Code form means that it is going to be very puzzle-like, cryptic, that you have to think to figure it out. And in order to do that, we're going to take the first letter of every word in this document, put a plus sign in between the letters, which is going to look something like this. See that? So this is the code form of the basic form of that document. I'll give you an example to make it clear to understand. So let me go back to the basic form. And I'm going to read this first paragraph right here in basic form. So ready? This method is commonly called first letter cueing or first letter mnemonics. Actors, speakers, and students sometimes use it to reduce a long sentence into a quick memory cue, practice recall without fully reading the script, train the brain to retrieve the words from minimal prompts. Okay, I just read the basic form. Now it's time to challenge my brain to read the code form. So let's go to the code form, and it's going to be right here. This method is commonly called first letter cueing or first letter mnemonics. Actors, speakers, and students sometimes use it to reduce a long sentence into a quick memory cue, practice recall without fully reading the script, train the brain to retrieve the words from minimal prompts. Okay, I just read the code form. I'll give you another example, okay, for this one. So let's go back to the basic form. And this is the basic form right here. It turns the line into a compressed retrieval queue. Your brain does not store memories like a video recording. Instead, it stores fragments, patterns, associations, cues. When you reduce a line to the first letter, you are compressing the line into a minimal queue, forcing your brain to reconstruct the full sentence from limited information. This strengthens recall because retrieval builds memory, not rereading. Okay, again, I just read the basic form. Now, again, it's time to challenge my brain to read the code form. Let's go back to the code form. And again, it's right here. It turns the line into a compressed retrieval queue. Your brain does not, Your brain does not save memory like a video recording. Instead, it saves fragments, patterns, associations, cues. When you reduce a line to the first letter, you are compressing the line into a minimal queue, forcing your brain to reconstruct the full sentence from limited information. Again, I just had a brain fart right there. Anyways, this strengthens recall because retrieval builds memory, not rereading. Okay, I just read the code form, and we're gonna read the rest of this document in code form. So just basically follow along, guys, and watch me, do the first letter queuing method. Okay, ready? It forces effortful retrieval, the number one memory strengthening mechanism. Cognitive science shows the most powerful way to strengthen memory is active recall, retrieving something from memory with effort. First letter queuing causes desired difficulty. Partial information, a forced mental fill-in. This difficulty is good. It strengthens neural pathways far more than simply reading the script repeatedly. When you look at the code form, your brain must reconstruct the line, and that act of reconstruction deepens storage. It reduces cognitive load while keeping the structure. A full sentence may overload working memory. A compressed letter string, preserve sequence, preserve syntax, reduce unnecessary detail, keeps your memory RAM clean. Your brain can hold 6 to 9 items in working memory. Seeing a full line may overload that limit. Seeing first letter only fits perfectly in that capacity. For martial arts, it's like turning a long technique sequence into a simple outline. It preserves order, sequential memory. A big reason actors struggle is remembering the order of lines, not the lines themselves. First letter enforces sequential cues, rhythm patterns, timing, muscle memory of the script flow. Your brain uses the letters like stepping stones. This is why actors can deliver an entire monologue from a single paper of cryptic letters, because the order cues are intact. It prevents over-reliance on reading. When actors read full lines, they get trapped into let me just start over. My brain just kind of had a brain fart. When actors read full lines, they get trapped into reading loops, script dependency, passive memory. By hiding everything except the first letter, you eliminate the safety net. This forces independence, full recall, performance memory. You end up knowing the line so well that you can say it even under pressure. It uses pattern completion, a natural brain function. Your brain is designed to complete incomplete patterns. This is called pattern completion, a part of memory involving the hippocampus. When you see the code form, your brain automatically tries to reconstruct. The tiger went up the stairs past the fat, hungry pink hippo, over the orange panda who was sleeping, and into the boxing ring to fight the blue lazy dog. It can do this because the brain loves filling gaps, figuring patterns, closing loops. This is the same mechanism behind guessing a a word from a okay, brain fart again. Guessing a word from a few letters. Remembering a song from one note. Finishing someone's sentence. So if you guys had a boyfriend, girlfriend, or a really good friend that you've known for a long time, when you hear them talk sometimes, you can almost figure out what they're about to say. So just really think about that. Anyways, before I go off in a tangent, 7. It turns passive data into a It turns passive data into active mental model. You're not memorizing words anymore. You're memorizing mental model. The letters become nodes, anchors, triggers, compressed packages of meaning. This is why long complex sequences like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu techniques or martial arts techniques becomes drastically easier when you compress them into code-like cues. It turns memorization into problem solving, which the brain loves. Okay, there you go. That's basically how the first letter cueing method works. Now, when you guys try this method for whatever lines or scripts that you're trying to memorize, you are definitely not going to be perfect at first. No one is. But practice it and you'll start to see how the first letter cueing method starts to benefit. Like it did for me of being able to read that whole document in code cryptic form, which again took me some time and practice. The whole big idea that I want you to fully understand is that once you can take something that is basic form and you are able to understand it comfortably in code form, at that point, you are now ready to try to recite the information from just your head. The code form is like your training wheels on a bike. And once you are able to get comfortable enough in riding them, then the next stage is to take them off. Once you take off the training wheels, you will be surprised at how much information you can still recall straight from your head without looking at the basic form or code form. That you will find that the code form is the tool to help information get into your head much easier. When it comes to remembering lines using the first letter cueing or first letter mnemonics method, the process of the method is way better than just reading the basic form repeatedly over and over and over again until you have it memorized, which I find very tedious, cognitively draining, and annoying. In some way, it's like a metaphor for how people use drilling in martial arts to repeat something over and over and over again until they have it memorized, which in my opinion is an inefficient way to acquire knowledge. Focus more on the process, because if your process is good, then you don't need as much repetition. If your process is bad, then you will need a lot more repetition to make up for it. But back to the point. Overall, I took this concept of the first letter cueing method and modified to not memorize words for scripts or lines, but martial art techniques instead. So this method on steroids basically. Instead of using letters to figure out words to memorize a sentence in a script or lines, I'm using symbols, hints, abbreviations, simple terms to figure out steps to memorize martial art techniques. Let that sink into your head. So this is what I want to clarify, is that if you're watching my demonstrations of turning information into code form, don't worry too much of how I'm using these symbols. You know, the plus signs, the greater and less than signs, the equal signs, the parentheses. Instead, focus on trying to put your own interpretations, context, ideas, and meanings to why I'm using them in certain ways to convey the information into code form. It doesn't have to be how I would use them, but more importantly, think of how you would use them. Same goes for the abbreviations and hints. You don't need to copy me. Try to come up with your own that you can use as stepping stones to help you think and recall information in a cryptic and puzzle-solving way, like you are designing a puzzle for yourself to solve. The main idea of why I do this kind of process is that I'm making the knowledge of what I observe and trying to comprehend mine by constructing my own understanding and ideas around it. That is what you are going to try to do as well. By making and turning the information into code form that makes sense to you, You end up making the knowledge yours, and I guarantee you will find that the knowledge just goes right into your long-term memory much easier and better. Another thing I want to add is that when you look at the code form, don't get in the way of your brain trying to do the work of figuring it out. Get used to thinking hard, but in a good way. I know thinking hard can lead to frustration, but you have to think and make connections when looking at the code form, with the mindset of not feeling frustrated, but more of seeing it as a fun challenge to solve a puzzle. Let your mind challenge itself to try to figure out this code form, and start thinking of how does it relate and fit into the context of the technique you are trying to memorize. Doing this will train your brain over time to be very efficient to encode information and being able to retrieve knowledge from limited information effectively. I promise you that once you finally reach a certain level of training your brain to be very good at retrieving knowledge from limited information in code form, you will be shocked at how easy it is to memorize complex techniques for whatever martial arts you are trying to learn. Think of it like going to a gym and lifting heavy for the first time. As a beginner, your mindset at first is going to feel like it's torture and frustrating. But over time, the more you do it, the more your mindset changes from torture and frustration to eventually growth and having a sense of challenge to take on heavier loads. Anyways, that is really it for this video. I hope my future demonstrations will help you going forward. If you are still confused or have any questions, make sure to reach out, because I have helped people learn how to use this method and they say it works and really help them in their training. If you guys want to know more about the method and how it works, I have a link that should be in the description down below of this video or in my channel description that you guys can click and read and do your own self-study of how the code note-taking method works. What makes systems so powerful is that you use them to see what results you get, and then change the system to get better results. That is why I hope you can come up with your own style and system based on my example that could work for you and hopefully be even better than my system. Wish you guys luck.